Hello, this is Abstract, the Origin. Just here to give y'all a video tutorial just showing off how my save and loading system works, or at least to show off the basics of how it works in pixelgamemakermv. This video is meant to be a supplemental guide to my already existing Steam guide, so I'm going to be skipping over some sections. Like I'm not going to explain what all these up here do. My guide explains that essentially. What I'm going to kind of dive into is kind of the more nuts and bolts mechanics of how it all works. So I have some save and load icons that I made myself. They're available for download inside of the guide. I'll probably put a link to them in the description of this video. So yeah, I made these. They're just very simple 8-frame animations, and all they are is really a palette swap, but it gets the idea across. So this helps set them up for having their own animations, and I built this a while back. I made them their own separate animations in one animation state, so that way it's just easier to manage for me. So as you can see, I have a save disk and I have all of the frames available there, so that way it just plays the animation as it is. I also have wall and collision detection on, but you don't necessarily need to have those things on, especially if you disable gravity detection later on in the object. So putting that together is pretty simple enough. What you'll do now, once you have some animations made, making saving and loading icons, or saving and loading things in general in this engine, pretty self-explanatory. So for instance, I went ahead and made a save and load icon just for some demonstration purposes. So there's always needing to be a central or starting node inside of an object, essentially. So in this case, I have just an idle state for the save icon, and with this I have blink conditions here that pretty much tell it what to do, and I have one link condition that activates going to the actual saving of the file after you've pressed OK and you're within a certain distance of this icon, or of this object I should say. And then what's more interesting is when you get inside of the actual active saving, I say action. With that in mind, you have to specify what file slot you want to save to, otherwise you're always going to save to file slot 0. You have to go ahead and put together some parameters of what you want to save initially if you want to do that. You don't necessarily need to, as these things should just save automatically. But what's important is that you need to trip the save file switch. It needs to be set to on. And this will be in what's called the common area of your project. The common area, where pretty much where all these variables and switches are available throughout the project, versus the internal variables and flags that are inside each and every single object separately. It's a discussion for a different day. But what you need to know is that whatever the name of your project is, that's kind of going to be used as the root name or the root folder name. And then you need to select save file and then turn it on. This will automatically save the game to a file, and then it automatically turn itself off after you trip it. And then you can put some text to show, hey, you saved your game, and then afterward you just go ahead and change unconditionally to go back to the start point of saving the file, or just the idle handling there. And then once you have your save icon, and I made a load icon just to show that loading follows a similar logic path where you have to load a file slot and then select load file. As the switch, it operates the same way, except it just does the opposite of saving. There's also a runtime option called load a file that's around that'll allow you to go ahead and save, or load the whatever save file you loaded as the file slot here, and then load particular parameters of that save file, so that way you can load the game easier. And then with these two as separate objects, you can then go to your scene, pick a layer, and then put them on whatever is considered your physical layer.